One of the things that I did mention to the HUD secretary is that we want to have a strong partnership with HUD, because one of the things that I like about the Obama administration and their approach, and I think HUD is going to be critical in this, is the president has said that he wants to have a focus on helping cities. And that's something that we have not had for a long time. I mean, interestingly enough, if you really take a look at recent history and you look at the presidents that we've had, for the most part, they have come from rural areas. This is really the first time in a long while that we've had a president who's from a big city. I think President Obama gets it. He's already announced that he was going, well, he since created it, but he's created an Office of Urban Policy, and I think all of that really bodes well for us in terms of having a friend in the White House. And from a HUD standpoint, one of the things that I like about the Secretary's approach is that they want to be experimental. They want to come up with some new ideas and just try some stuff out. And I think we actually see some of that in the anti-foreclosure package that is now being prepared. I know that there are a lot of people that are jumping on that and raising all kinds of questions, but it at least represents an attempt to employ some visionary thinking, and we want to be a part of that. We want to work with them on that.
When you mentioned the HUD, do you think there's any dollars to help with some of the abandoned buildings that we've got in the city? We've obviously got a surplus of that, unfortunately.
There are. As a matter of fact, there's two things in play as it relates to that issue. One thing that my administration did do last year is it was announced last fall that HUD was going to be making $47 million in supplemental block grant funds available to the city of Detroit if we submitted a credible proposal, which we did. And we submitted that proposal on December 1st of last year. We have not gotten a formal answer yet in terms of whether or not we're actually going to be getting these monies, but it looks very positive. Now, the other thing also is through the stimulus money, and this may be a stretch, so I don't know if we'll get this, but we have actually built out a line item in the list of projects that we submitted for economic stimulus, and we submitted about 160 projects, the total value of which is worth several $billions. But one of the line items that we carved out in our proposal was we requested some money that we could use, additional funds that we could use for demolition, above and beyond the HUD money that I just talked about. And what I want to do with some of that money actually is not just tackle abandoned houses, but go after some of these larger buildings that are like huge eyesores and which have been blighting influences on the city skyline for years. Case in point, the train station. You know, that's one example. There's another example, Lee Plaza, which some of you may be familiar with. It's on West Grand Boulevard near Northwestern. So we got a couple of these big major buildings that are just huge and have been sitting dormant and are just rotting away. Another example is the Lafayette building. If you know where the Lafayette Coney Island and American Coney Island, right next door to that, that's another example. But one thing I will say though, and I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, there are some buildings that need to come down, but I also think we have to be very careful about not getting demolition happy, particularly as it relates to homes, because we have a lot of houses that, yes, technically are abandoned and maybe have multiple code violations, but with a little TLC, you know, could be great homes for somebody. So the other thing that we want to do is not just demolish, but also build partnerships with nonprofit community service organizations who would be interested in taking over these houses, investing in them, fixing them up, and then making them homes. So that's got to be part of the focus as well, because if we get too demolition happy, as I was saying, we're going to wind up demolishing a lot of good housing stock, and we don't want to do that.